So I made a typo right here. This should be a comma. Sorry about that. So let's try it again. Oops, I didn't save. Okay, everything's fine. Erase. So there you go. You can see 2.37, 4.8, 12.4, 8.9. Okay, so that is how you declare an array and initialize its few values, and you go through the array and display each value. And now I'd like to do something different now. So let's first just declare the array and then later define the values. So let's say just comment this out. Let's get that out of the way. So let's say I want to create an array of characters and say I want it to have 32 elements. So first the type is character. Let's say my chars. I said 32 elements, so 32 there. I just declared it. Now I want to define it later. The way I want to define each element is that, well, first you could define it by hand by doing like this. So 0 is, let's say, B. My char sub 1 equals C, and so on all the way up to my char sub 31, which is the last element. Remember, we're counting from 0. And that would be very tedious to do, but that would be possible if you want to try. You see out my char sub 0 after I defined it to be B. I would get something. Oops, compile again and execute. I got B as expected because I set it to B, but I declared it here. All the values are undefined, and then here I define them. Let's say I want to try to refer to 1, I would get C, right? Because I defined it to be C. What if I did 2? Well, 2 is undefined, so is that okay to do here in C++? Compiler and complain. Undefined element, let's see what we get. Okay. So, didn't get anything. Well, it's undefined, so you don't really know what you're going to get. So that's one thing about C++. If you try to access an element that you didn't really define, or the compiler will not complain, and it's assumed that you know what you're doing. And also, if you try to go out of bounds to some element that's not really in the array, you're allowed to do so in C++. So be careful of that. We'll talk about outer bounds later. But for now, let's just try to keep to know. Let's assume we know what we're doing here. It will not refer to things that are not yet defined. So I want to try and go through for loop to define each of the elements in the mychar as variable. So int, let's say start from 0, less than the size of the array, I plus plus. So let's say I want to assign a value to each element, and I want to start from A and go B, C, D, and so on. So the way I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna say my char sub I equals, well, you could say A like this, but then every it would go my char sub 0, 1, 2, all the way up to 31, and all of them would be 8. How can we make it become B, C, and D, and so on? How can we increase that? Like, characters are actually integers, and the characters are actually in integers in ASCII, for example. And ASCII for A has a certain integer value, and if we increase the value by 1, then we're going to go to B, and we increase it again, that's C, and so on. So we have to make sure we're keeping track of the character, like say current character, say it's A, start A, and then what we're gonna do is gonna assign the current character to my char sub I, and after that I'm going to say, okay, I want to increment the current character by 1. So I start the loop, my char sub 0 is A. Then I current char increment. That means it's going to go to B, because that's actually an integer that's representing this number. So if I increment by 1, you're going to go to a different letter, different number, which represents a different letter. So that's going to work for us here. So let's see what we're going to get now. Nothing, because it forgot to display it. See out. Let's display it in each iteration what the value of my char sub I is. Okay. Let's see what we got here. We got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, all the way up to Z. And then after Z, since we ran out of letters of the alphabet, we went to the next characters that were represented by those specific integer numbers, braces, and so on. Even this character, I don't know what that is. No, that is. So that's how we define the elements of an array inside a loop. Okay, so later on you could do another loop and go through each element again, as I did. I already did it here, so. But you could do something to the array. The elements of has value something. Compile and execute. I didn't put a new line. So elements of 0 is value A, sub 26 value that, and so on. So you could do something besides displaying their values. You could even like append something or whatever. Okay, now let's talk about outer bounds. So I declare an array of integers. Let's see, 5 elements. I'm gonna initialize it to 9. Sorry, just 5. Okay, so we have 5 elements here, right? Array of integers, 5 elements. And actually, if you want, you don't have to specify that right here. The compiler will implicitly guess the number of elements based on how many elements there are here. Since there are 5, this array will have array size of 5, which is implicit. But normally you can put explicit. Let's try implicit here. In this case, just so you know it's possible to do that. And then what I want to do is, first I'm gonna see out number sub What is that? That's 0, 1, 2, 3. That's 1, right? Now what if I try this? Number sub. So we can start counting from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not really an element. It's out of the bounds of the array. So we're stepping from here to somewhere else. Unknown region. And that's, as I told you before, that's okay to do in C++. The compiler won't complain. Let's see if it didn't say anything. I went out of bounds to something I don't really know what it is. And I'm gonna try to display it and see what do I get. So first I display 1, which is the sub 3, right? Fourth element, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then I display it was supposedly the 6th element, but there's no 6th element. I'm somewhere else, I don't know where, and display this value. What is that? I don't know. So you have to be careful about stepping out of bounds in C++. Because the file we're assuming know what we're doing. Maybe other languages won't allow you to do this because their compiler might complain, hey, you're stepping out of bounds. But C++ it doesn't complain. It assumes you know what you're doing. So be careful. Don't go out of bounds. Make sure your lower bounds and upper bounds when you're working with arrays are correct, and they don't go beyond the current bounds of the array. You can even say like that, 425th element, supposedly, which doesn't really exist. You're stepping out of bounds and you're going that far ahead and somewhere in memory. See, well, I got some weird value here. So be careful. And this is about it for this video about arrays in C++, just an introduction, how to declare arrays, how to define them, and how to go through each element. And just a little bit about going out of bounds in C++, which is allowed, and trying to refer to something that is not really defined yet, also allowed. So be careful. Make sure to define array elements before you use them. Do something with them, and be sure to be within the array bounds and not go out of bounds. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Any comments, requests, or suggestions, please post in the comments below. Thank you so much.